The moment he saw the photograph, the world seemed to tilt beneath his worn-out shoes. Marcus Hale had spent the entire morning rehearsing how to ask for a janitor's position at one of the most powerful corporations in the city, but nothing had prepared him for the sight that greeted him inside the sleek, sunlit office of CEO Adrian Whitmore. There, mounted in a polished silver frame on the wall behind the mahogany desk, was a picture of his daughter, Isla. Her messy auburn curls caught in mid-laughter. The tiny dimple on her left cheek. The faded yellow sundress she only wore on special days. His breath caught so sharply it felt like glass in his chest. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Kindness Journal. Stories like this remind us that even in the hardest seasons, compassion can rewrite destinies. Marcus stood frozen, his calloused hands trembling at his sides. The office was flooded with mid-morning light, the city skyline stretching endlessly beyond the glass walls. The scent of polished wood and fresh coffee lingered in the air. It was a world far removed from the cramped apartment where he and Isla lived, a place where peeling paint and flickering lights were part of everyday life. He hadn't meant to look around so boldly. He had come here humbly, hat in hand, his best shirt ironed twice to hide its frayed collar. But when his eyes found that picture, everything else blurred into insignificance. Why was his daughter's face hanging in the office of a billionaire CEO? Marcus's life had never followed a smooth path. 5 years earlier, a car accident had taken his wife, Nora, in the middle of a bright afternoon much like this one. He remembered the call from the hospital, the way sunlight streamed through the windows as his world collapsed. Since then, he had been both mother and father to Isla. He packed her lunches, braided her unruly curls with clumsy fingers, learned to sew torn hems and sit through school recitals with tears brimming in his eyes. But love didn't pay rent. After the manufacturing plant shut down last winter, Marcus found himself scrambling for work. Temporary jobs came and went. Construction 1 month, warehouse shifts the next. Each time he thought he had found stability, the rug was pulled out from under him again. The savings dwindled. The landlord grew impatient. Still, every morning, Marcus walked Isla to her elementary school under the soft glow of daylight, pretending everything was fine. She would chatter about science projects and playground adventures, blissfully unaware of the eviction notice tucked inside his jacket pocket. The job at Whitmore Enterprises felt like his last chance. The company had recently expanded, and rumors said they were hiring maintenance staff. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Steady meant rent paid. Steady meant groceries without counting pennies. He had not expected to find his daughter's face smiling down from the CEO's wall. The photo was unmistakable. It had been taken during the spring community fair 3 months earlier. Isla had insisted on getting her face painted like a butterfly. Marcus had snapped the picture on his old phone just as she twirled in the sunlight, her laughter bright and unrestrained. He remembered that day vividly because it had been one of the rare afternoons when bills and worries felt distant. So how did that exact image end up here? Marcus forced himself to breathe, to focus. Adrian Whitmore sat behind the desk reviewing a file, his tailored suit immaculate, his silver hair perfectly combed. He looked up slowly, noticing Marcus's fixed stare. The silence stretched thin. Marcus wasn't a confrontational man. He avoided trouble. But something primal stirred inside him. A father's instinct. A fierce protectiveness that burned hotter than fear. He stepped forward, voice shaking despite his effort to steady it. He asked why his daughter's picture was on the wall. Adrian's expression changed in an instant. The composed corporate mask faltered, replaced by something raw. Something almost vulnerable. He rose from his chair, walking around the desk, stopping just beneath the framed photograph. Sunlight illuminated the glass, casting a soft halo around Isla's smiling face. What happened next would unravel a story Marcus never knew existed. 3 months earlier, on that same spring community fair day, Adrian Whitmore had not attended as a CEO. He had come alone, dressed casually, blending into the crowd. For years, he had funded local education initiatives anonymously, trying to give back in quiet ways. But he rarely engaged directly. He carried a private grief that made public appearances difficult. Years ago, Adrian had lost his only daughter, Elara, to a rare heart condition. She had been 8 years old. She had loved butterflies. The loss had hollowed him out. Success became a shield. Work became an escape. He built Whitmore Enterprises into a powerhouse, but he never stepped into his daughter's bedroom again after the funeral. It remained frozen in time, a shrine to what could have been. That afternoon at the fair, Adrian wandered past the face-painting booth when he heard laughter so pure it made him stop. He turned and saw Isla spinning in her yellow sundress, butterfly wings painted across her cheeks. The resemblance wasn't physical, it was something deeper. The light in her eyes. The fearless joy. For a moment, his breath had left him just as it did Marcus now. He had watched from a distance, not intruding, simply observing the father who knelt to adjust his daughter's crooked headband, the way he listened attentively as she described every detail of her painted wings. Adrian noticed the tenderness in Marcus's gestures, the careful way he held her hand as they walked toward the lemonade stand. It was the kind of devotion money couldn't buy. Without thinking, Adrian had asked if he could take a photograph for the fair's community board. Marcus, distracted and assuming he was just another volunteer, had nodded politely. Adrian captured that image, the exact one now framed on the wall. He kept it. Not out of obsession, but as a reminder. A reminder that joy still existed. That love between parent and child could survive even in modest circumstances. That somewhere, fathers were still kneeling in the dirt to fix headbands and wipe sticky fingers. As Adrian explained this, Marcus felt a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, anger, disbelief. It was strange and unsettling, yet not sinister. The story carried sorrow rather than malice. Adrian admitted that the photograph had become something of a talisman. On difficult days, when corporate battles drained him, he would glance at Isla's radiant smile and remember why he funded children's hospitals, why he invested in community programs. She represented hope he thought he had lost forever. Marcus listened, his protective instinct slowly easing, replaced by something heavier, empathy. He understood grief intimately. He knew what it meant to lose a spouse, to wake up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who would never be there again. The two men stood in silence beneath the photograph, bound by different versions of the same pain. But Marcus hadn't come here for shared sorrow. He had come for a job. The eviction deadline loomed. His daughter needed stability. Adrian noticed the fatigue etched into Marcus's face, the subtle tremor in his hands. He asked about his visit. Marcus swallowed his pride and explained everything, the plant closure, the odd jobs, the rent notice. He spoke not with self-pity but with quiet determination. He didn't ask for charity. He asked for work. The honesty in his voice struck Adrian deeply. Here was a man who had every reason to crumble yet chose to stand tall for his child. Adrian walked back to his desk, picked up the eviction notice Marcus had unknowingly dropped earlier, and read the date. 2 weeks. Sunlight streamed stronger now, casting long afternoon shadows across the office floor. Time felt suspended. Adrian made a decision that would ripple far beyond that room. He didn't just offer Marcus the janitor position. He offered him a facilities management role, complete with training, benefits, and a salary that would more than cover rent. He saw in Marcus not just a worker, but a man of integrity. Someone who understood responsibility in its purest form. Marcus could hardly process the words. His knees weakened, and for a terrifying second, he thought he might collapse right there on the polished floor. He hadn't expected generosity. He had braced for rejection. Adrian extended his hand, not as a CEO to a desperate applicant, but as one father to another. In the weeks that followed, Marcus began his new role. The transition wasn't easy. The corporate environment intimidated him at first, but he approached every task with diligence. He learned quickly, stayed late when needed, and never complained. Adrian noticed. One bright Tuesday afternoon, Adrian visited the local elementary school where Whitmore Enterprises sponsored a new science lab. Marcus happened to be there too, fixing a maintenance issue. Isla spotted her father first, running toward him with the same butterfly-like energy that had once caught Adrian's attention. Adrian watched from a distance as Marcus lifted her into his arms. The laughter echoed through the hallway, warm and unrestrained. Something inside Adrian shifted. He approached gently this time, properly introduced himself to Isla, and told her how inspiring her butterfly picture had been. She beamed, unaware of the deeper layers of grief and healing beneath his words. That day, Adrian made another decision. He established the Alar Isla Foundation, a scholarship and community support program for single parents struggling after loss. Marcus was invited to help shape it, offering insight from lived experience. What began as a shocking discovery on a corporate wall became the seed of something transformative. Marcus's apartment soon felt less like a battleground and more like a home. The eviction notice vanished. The fridge stayed full. Isla's laughter no longer carried the faint undercurrent of her father's hidden worry. And in Adrian's office, the photograph remained. But now it stood beside another frame, one of Alara, smiling in a butterfly costume from years ago. Two little girls connected by sunlight, by memory, by second chances. If this story has touched your heart, if you believe that even strangers can become instruments of healing, please take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your engagement helps spread messages of compassion further than you know. Because sometimes, in the middle of an ordinary day, when sunlight spills across an office floor or a playground sidewalk, lives intersect in ways that defy explanation. Grief meets hope. Desperation meets opportunity. And a father's trembling question, "Why is my daughter's picture on your wall?" becomes the doorway to redemption neither man saw coming. Before this story ends, I have one small, special request. Comment the word butterfly if you believe that love has the power to transform even the deepest pain. Marcus would later tell Isla that life can surprise you when you least expect it. That sometimes the world feels unbearably heavy, but kindness can tip the balance. And Adrian, standing by the window of his sunlit office, often looked at the two photographs and felt something he hadn't felt in years, not the sharp ache of loss, but the gentle warmth of purpose reborn. In the end, it wasn't wealth or power that changed their lives. It was a shared understanding between two fathers under the same afternoon sun, realizing that while the past can never be rewritten, the future is always waiting for someone brave enough to choose compassion.